This is Good Girl Gone Human, an ongoing conversation that serves the frequency of rehumanization. We believe that in striving towards being good and away from being bad, we can lose touch with our humanity and uniqueness. Our hope is that in expanding our capacity to accept our own humanity, we expand the capacity to accept and hold each other's humanity as well.
We welcome uncertainty and questions with curiosity. This is not a roadmap for the right way to be human. We hold tenderly how seductive and human it is to reach for a formula that will provide a sense of certainty and safety. This is not that place, but rather a place for dropping into our big, messy questions.
This isn't just for the recovering good girls out there, but for every human who desires to peel off the layers that hide the wholeness of who they are.
We want to tell the stories of how messy and complicated and beautiful it is to find ourselves in the aftermath of this shedding. There is space for your story, and we want you to join us on this journey of rehumanization. Hi, humans. Welcome back to season 2 of Good Girl Gone Human. Hi, Holly.
Hello.
I'm so excited because today we are joined by our beautiful friend and guest, Elyse Snipes. Hi, Elyse.
Hi. Hi, guys.
This is so exciting. We were just talking about season 2 is like going to have a different flavor to it with more guests. And so I'm so grateful that you're here today. Elyse is my neighbor. She is a fellow mom at our local public school. So we get to see each other there. She has opened a beautiful space in our town called Radical Wellness Collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a therapist, she's a podcaster, she's a mother, a wife, so many beautiful things. And we're so excited to have a conversation with her today. I love it. Elyse, how are you doing today? I want to start with that. You got a big smile on your face, but how are you doing?
I'm really happy to be here. There was like a deja vu in regards to returning to this room, and it just feels really good to be here because I feel like I don't have to have it figured out in order to sit here. Like I'm like, oh, things changed since the last time we tried this episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we get to actually, I can just be here in real time.
Yes. So we actually, this is the second time Elyse has been here. We recorded an episode that Holly and I will still say was one of our favorite episodes.
Oh, it was amazing.
And then we were calling it Lost, but it's out in the ether, and it was for us. It was an episode for us. We got to connect. And so Elyse is back here, and it feels really special. And we're all leaning into kind of this like, oh, cool, we get to have another conversation that people actually get to listen to this time. But I love your feeling of not feeling like you have to have it together to step in here. It really, that feels resonant for us. Like we want to settle in when we're in here and relate and connect. And it feels so easy to do that with you. So I'm grateful.
And it feels like as we're stepping into our next season here, we kind of build this foundation of like, what does it look like to humanize ourselves after working so hard to be really good and like avoid being bad or being seen as bad. And so now settling into like, okay, like we get to be together instead of try to like get it right. Remember everything we said last time and just like bring on guests that can help us stretch out these concepts and like show us how they embody all of it. And so, oh my goodness, so happy to be here with you. And to kick us off, I just would love to hear more about, you know, you have a lot of titles and a lot of roles in life. Like, how do you view yourself and show up in the world?
It's a real small question.
Yeah. Tiny. This is soft pitch.
Coming out swinging, yeah.
How do I view myself in the world? I mean, I guess intuitively I even like close my eyes because when I think of like myself, I think I maybe most directly think about myself in relationship to, I mean, I guess I want to say like my daydream space. So it's like when I close my eyes and I am just myself in the world, or myself in the universe, or myself, just me, I feel very at ease. Like I can be anything. And there's exceptional kindness in that experience that I crave. It's so I mean, that's where I want to go, is it's like just when I get to be me in light of or in between all those roles, there's like a kind, comforting experience of just being alive.
I love that word kindness, because there's something that can feel a little unkind. I'm like fleshing this out in my head about titles sometimes, because they're very restricting. And I mean, the title of therapist for sure has been an evolution for you. Even in connecting about this episode, we were like season 2, and you're like, of course it's season 2. Like the seasons are unfolding and things are changing. And I do want to hear your process. Okay. I know your work looks different now than it has even in years past, but just your process of, let's start with that title.
Sure. Yeah.
Therapist.
Yeah. It's like, it's actually a word that feels like, you know, if something stuck in your teeth and you just can't get it out, and you're sure everyone else can see it, but you're like, oh, is there something in my teeth? Because it feels weird. And that is not sometimes, that's actually all the time how it feels. I like want to stand up. Like, I'm like, that's not my seat, or that's a word that doesn't feel like something I want to put on. And from the beginning, probably, so you guys, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, which is a really insane thought to me. I went right from college to grad school and have been in the field of mental health for almost 20 years now. So it was like 2006, since 2025, right? So it's been a long time. And the idea that I could participate in helping to provide some form of ease for other people's suffering, that still very much deeply resonates with me. And the job has been really hard, and being like a quote unquote therapist is a really hard seat to sit in, because there's so much pain. And also, all the stories or things we associate with like a therapist are things that I've been like, ooh, I don't know if that is me. So if that's like an old white man in a sweater.
Totally. In a fancy office with a lot of frames on the wall, and or like an ugly room that like someone hates and they just put grandma's furniture in it and they don't care about their job anymore. Like there's been a lot of weird offices I've been into where I'm like, what happened in here? Bad energy.
So I feel like since I've been in this field, is a sense of wanting to really I mean, maybe rebel, actually, I think is actually the word, is to say, oh, is this what you think it is? And let's find some ways for you immediately to feel discombobulated, in a sense. Like, so you have to undo what you think the experience is going to be like. So I worked out of a vintage trailer on the beach for years. Like, that was my office, was like an Airstream. You know, so immediately you're not thinking like this is a therapy, a medical place, or a place for sick people. You think this is a place for like, what could be here? So there's just some. Yeah,
I'm curious. Like, it sounds like you've had quite a creative approach to therapy. Can you speak a little bit more about like the stuck in your tooth feeling? Like, what exactly didn't fit, and what are the ways that you have rebelled in addition to like trailer on the beach?
Okay, the thing that didn't fit for me was it felt like in order for people to show up, they almost like their pass in had to be brokenness, right? Like in order to get in the room, something bad had to happen, probably the worst, right? Because people typically don't think that they're going to go to see a therapist for personal growth or for fun. Like that's not right. And so I think that entrance fee felt like that, no way. And I know that we'll have some parallels around church in the same way, but it's like brokenness as the entrance fee. And so if that wasn't the cost of entry, if being a person or being curious or wanting to learn how to be gentle with yourself or recovery or dreaming or stepping into agency, what if I went and saw this person in this trailer at the beach because I want to live a really fucking good life. You know, like what if
Yes.
You don't hear that mindset. Yeah.
That word agency is like pinging in my brain because you made the parallel connection to religion, even the medical field, like with our bodies, we wait till we're sick versus like caring for ourselves. Religion, for sure, the entry ticket is that you're completely broken and sinful. Therapy, I'm allowed to go because something really terrible happened to me. And that idea of agency, I've been sitting a lot with like the idea of how do people change and can we change and can I change these patterns? Because I feel stuck in certain things. And you're like, how do I have to hit rock bottom? Does it have to get bad enough? We've said that to each other. I don't think it's bad enough yet for you to course correct. And I think that it makes so much sense to me as you're talking about therapy and this sterile sort of way that like and religion, I want an authority outside of my body at all times telling me what to do. That was God for a long time. And now, it could be a therapist. And I see a lot of ways that people interact with therapy. Totally. It's like, take it, like we've said this, or take my power. How do you how do you pass the people's power back to them? Yeah. Because I even in myself, I'm like, can somebody take my power, please, for a minute and please fix this mess that I keep making over and over again? You know, that's like the narrative in my head.
Okay, but that you're naming again the way in which we associate the title therapist or the work of therapy. We have a lot of built up stories on what that is. And one of them is that therapists are going to give you advice, that they're going to tell you what to do. And that's not actually therapeutic. That's like a girlfriend could tell you that.
I feel like a lot of therapy is that. When I hear people talking about their therapy experiences, is like they said do this.
Yes. Right. And so I wonder what is heard versus what's exchanged. I do think some people are looking for a license, and if a therapist could co-sign that, then they could say, well, my therapist told me this. And it's like, oh, did they? I don't do that. So, okay. The assigning away of power, though, you're right. I think I'll speak specifically as a female. I think like for women, like we are taught and groomed to outsource our power all the time, that we would be the ones waiting, and that a man at some point will know that they will come and find us and we will live happily ever after, through no agency of our own. We could be asleep and Prince Charming could find us, right? So there's an ongoing sense of we don't know. And that's the journey from like maiden, mother, crone, that trifecta of archetypes, that as I emerge into agency, I go from not knowing to knowing, and then actually getting to institute that knowing in my community around me. So yes, people will sometimes come to therapy. Yes, they would like to just set down their things and have me be responsible or know more. And the upsetting part, the thwart or the discombobulation again, is you're the expert of your pain and your passion. You know more about you than I do. Now I'm an excellent sojourner. I will partner with you. Whatever the topic I'm in, I'm all in. The top stuff, the bottom stuff, the gritty, really gritty stuff, I'm like I will be with you. But I will not do your work because I respect you way too much to do that. I would be ripping you off of being a person and getting to come in touch with your own grit and your own will and your own self-responsibility and your own strength and your own, like, I did it, you know?
Oh, I'm thinking about all of this where I'm like, I guess the other side of the table is like client or like recipient of therapy. And the idea that the price or like the ticket into therapy is brokenness. I'm thinking about like years and years ago, the first time I went to therapy, that brokenness place actually felt really comfortable. To be broken enough for someone to suggest you need therapy was like a relief. And I had like a handful of therapists and then switched to a coach, which I can like get into why, but I'm just thinking about the beginning of my journey to start though, that there was this sense of like coming from religion, actually starting therapy when I was still in Christianity. I actually had zero connection to the thought that maybe even I could possibly ever trust myself. And so when I look back all those years ago, I really was looking for someone, and not even just in therapy, like everywhere, like you were saying, just even as sitting here as women, like I must like look for who knows what I should do and follow it, copy and paste it, because for me, I'll speak personally, it was, I am dirty, I am sinful, my best day is like a dirty rag, and I could never. And so it's interesting, like even this idea of the price of admission to therapy being brokenness. It was almost like, okay, good, this is my comfort zone, because I was always told I was broken, but now there's a savior. I could pay them. It's that easy. I could just sit here and you can just tell me. And I am like so thankful for how my journey unfolded, because honestly, some therapists, a lot of therapists, you might know more than me, do not think the way you do. They're fine taking the power. And I actually do think people like need help, and so reaching out for help is brave. Like there's a lot of good to it, but like along my journey, there were, especially the coach I have now, she was adamant about handing my power back to me. I'd be like, thank you for the work that she goes, you did that. And it was over time, just a lot of fawning, a lot of looking where, like, even, I'm going to phrase this in a way because I've studied you, practitioner who's up here.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to actually even present it in this way because I want you to think I'm good. Because it's like, it's this weird, like, almost meta process of if, like, because I think it comes from this raw place of, you know, when we want God to save us, we want him to think we're good. We want our parents to think we're good. So it's like this, if I'm in this broken place, but you think I'm doing good, it's not really about that building the self-trust, taking our power back. It's about like finding safety in the other, going pat on the head, like, I'm above you and I've deemed you worthy or good. And wow, I'm really on a soapbox here. But like, I think I'm coming from a place of like, I'm really grateful for the people that have showed up and like handed the power back to me, because what saved me was building a connection with myself instead of somebody else saving me.
Yes.
Ooh, needed to get that all that out, I guess.
Yeah. And
It's,
how is that, right? To get that out.
I feel very like connected to myself. Even like me 5 years ago, sitting in this kind of scenario with a therapist, I would have been a little bit more like,
my God, right.
Tell me everything. I know nothing. Oh my God. And now I'm like, wow, I see what you're doing. I'm doing a similar work from a different place, and we can bring that here together.
Yes. So, but you kind of just gave away again, like, why I don't love all the titles, because can you imagine showing up anywhere in your life and then everyone thinks that you're either like judging them or analyzing them, or it's like, it's like, oh my, that's not at all the heart at which I do any of my work. So it's like, why I would want to move away from that title, because that happens all the time.
Is that how you feel moving in the world?
Oh, okay. So think like, remember what just happened. If you're like, oh, if 5 years ago, if I would have been in this room and there was a therapist here, because that title carries some meaning.
Yeah. Big weight.
And it's not meaning I ascribe. It's meaning that somehow that's like society or their people's experiences has ascribed that to it. And I think I just want the opportunity to define myself. I think it's like, no, so I can't use that word because I have to use a different word, because like, but then coach doesn't define it all for me either, because to go through the process of licensure is long and arduous and defined, and so it's not just coaching. It's an interesting, weird world.
Well, I love the way you're shifting. I'm thinking about the way I want to say do therapy. Is that what you'd call it? I don't know. Connect.
Do my work.
Do your work. And I want you to explain that too, because you were saying earlier, like, oh, that's not therapeutic, right? Like the way that therapy is done. And the way you describe how you sit with people now, literally the way you're positioned, where you are, what you're doing. I like breathe. It feels therapeutic to me. Cool. So like paint a picture for people, this process from maybe office to trailer to where are we meeting with people now?
Great. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So that's such a cool point, right? Is that immediately when we hear words, we build a visual, right? And so when you come into a space, and if we're sitting opposing each other, then there is a sense of me versus you. And you're even taught in grad school how to set up a room and where you're supposed to sit versus where the client's supposed to sit. And then, I mean, it's a lot of...
It's all psychology, right?
All psychology, right? And what can be between you and what can't. I mean, there's so much, right? But I don't like the feeling necessarily of being across from somebody, because even in the language, I'm across from you. It's like we're at an impasse right off the get. So now I sit in a beach chair in the sand with you, next to you. So there's just 2 beach chairs. I bring them. We sit in the sand, and it's like a we experience. We sit at the beach together. We sit with our toes in the sand. We sit and see the ocean, and we get to participate. It's just a different posture. And again, for me, I really can lean into the landscape of the place to hold the experience instead of me feeling like responsible for the whole experience. I get to be in it too.
Yeah, so, things are happening around you, and you're drawing connections to people's stories, and it's organic. It's magic. I mean, the things that have happened, and I think this is part of why I like not being in a clinical setting, is it's like it's happening all around us, and now we're in the world together doing this. We don't have to leave the world in order to do this work. We can be in it right now. So literally 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting there on the beach with my person, and then these little girls come over, and they were playing, and I watched, my person start to like look over, and she was kind of seeing it, and it started to kind of weave into her own process. And the way these little girls were approaching this edge wasn't how we saw it. We saw this edge, like when the waves take away some of the sand, there creates a little bit of a wall or a ledge or a cliff, depending on how tall you are. And we saw it as like this edge that can feel intimidating, or like, you're looking over. It brought up a lot of like risk. And then all of a sudden these 3-4-year-olds come running over, and they just sit down and slide. Like they just, and it was like, oh, right. Or I guess it could be a slide. Oh my gosh. Like it gave me goosebumps,
it could
right?
Be play.
It's play.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And then then the invitation is just to go ahead and do that. So you better believe that it was like, and that's how we got to finish our time together was, well, should we?
Yeah.
What if we also sat in our booties and scooted and let it be a lot simpler than this risk taking? I need to jump and make a big move in my life. Like, what if it was just, and then I sat and slid down.
Yes. Of course you did.
Yeah, right. So there's something about doing less talking and more actually experiencing the thing we want.
The somatics of it. I've had really intense experiences like that where it just happened to me a couple weeks ago. I was feeling really stuck. And my sweet friend Brooke, Dave Thompson's wife, he was a guest on our podcast. She did this class called Unstuck. And she would put us in these positions where you literally hit your edge.
Yes.
And then she goes, okay, so how do you get unstuck?
So
you got to find your edge. And you're like, I'm stuck. Oh, I can just move my body back this way. The somatics of it was a huge emotional release. I sent you a voice text that night that I ended up crying and unleashing all these things, because the somatics and the moving of our body is like just so important.
Yes. Okay, so let's break down the somatic part. So basically what's happening is our brains think they know all the ways out. Okay, so our brain has made up that like, well, I guess when I'm stuck, I guess I'm just stuck. It doesn't work harder. But you put your body in the position, so your body's now in that stuck. Well, your body actually would like a different experience. And your brain's like, I don't know, I guess this is where we live now. We are live against this wall. and the body can't. And so then it has to get creative, and there has to be a moment of ingenuity where it's done something it's never done before. And then the body will move, and then the brain is like, oh, I guess that was the option. So what you're doing is taking out the intellect. You're taking out the creativity of like, this is how I do my stuckness.
Yes.
And it's a totally brand new experience. So you're remapping the neuro process of the brain then to be open to possibility rather than the way it's always been.
The neural pathway. I think, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've been thinking a lot about safety and just feeling like even somatically how unsafe I feel in the world. And even when I would say like, oh, I logically like, no, I'm safe. Yeah. I'm having this like freeze. And so what I'm hearing you say is like, oh yeah, my brain, and I love intellectualizing everything. That makes me feel safe. But then my body is like, wait, but we're still frozen. So I don't know, just kind of chewing on that, like putting your body in this like place, and then the brain's like, wait, we actually are safe here.
Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite quotes on like prayer, actually, it was like, he described prayer as like to descend with the mind into the heart, and there to stand before, God or love or universe, whatever, like ever present, all loving within you. Like that's like the road to safety. It's not an intellectual process. It's to slip in and marry yourself and and actually be in the safety, not think it. Not memorize the way, just like dip in, go right beneath the surface.
Well, we talk about good girl gone human too, and we've said like the most human thing is like having these bodies. It's like that's like this human experience is the body. And I think my healing journey like skyrocketed when I started dancing, and the correlation between the other work I was doing and literally my time dancing every week. It was like, oh, that I didn't know until looking back when I started moving my body and living in my body. And same time, the first time I did yoga like 13 years ago, I had this moment of like, I have a body that I could be kind to. I was a gymnast growing up. I was very hard on my body.
No kidding.
And then I just forgot that I had a body for a long time. Probably to heal from being a competitive gymnast. And then doing yoga for the first time, it was like, oh, I can like choose to breathe. I just had almost never had the thought, I don't think,
Yes.
I can choose to breathe. I can show my body loving care. I can give it the full range of motion and deepen in. Like it's so important. And we want to intellectualize everything. Of course, it's so much safer. It's so much safer.
Well, and so the juxtaposition here of like looking for safety and in the body's freeze response, and then being that's a rebellious act, is to dance and to move, especially coming from Christian culture where women's bodies have been used against us as the original home of sin and like the greatest temptress of all time, right? Okay, so but part of how we sometimes find safety is actually through rebellion. And so sometimes we are taught that like, okay, I'm looking for safety, which means I need to find slow and soft and kind and cuddly. But what we're doing is we're just telling ourselves that that's the only way that we can find safety, or that if I get smaller and cozier like a kiddo, then I'll find the safe thing. And sometimes it's by being like, it's taking it off and moving and doing something where you're like, oh, I'm breaking a rule, and whoa, that felt big, and holy shit, that feels like I just did a damn thing. And it might be in my room. No one, but I did it. And maybe I just needed a growth spurt. Maybe I just needed to break out of freeze in order to find some spontaneous motion that felt very true to me.
Oh, I love that. That's connecting me to kind of how Good Girl Gone Human was born, because I was freely, like in our first few episodes, being like, guys, what if there's no good or bad? And without even realizing, some people were like, you can't say that, because people will murder each other if you say that. And I had to rewind, and I'm like, why am I even saying that? I'm saying that for the reason that for the reasons you just stated, that rebellion, that like cage of being good, even like I can't move my body when I'm around a man, or I have so many restrictions. I am still unraveling and just how I hold my body. So for me, like putting the labels of good and bad down and experimenting with, we have this spectrum where, I raised my voice a little. Am I bad? Oh, actually, I there's opportunity on this spectrum to repair. And like, I actually needed that release in my voice. What if I'm not bad? What if, like, kind of that fluidity. And so for me, it's funny. It's like Good Girl Gone Human is actually like, what happens if I rebel right now? Am I bad? It actually felt really bad to rebel. Not going to go murder anyone.
Sure.
You know, there's bounds, but it's really like an invitation to, without an authority telling you, here's the bounds of humanity. Say, can I explore? Can I like feel what it felt like to slam the door a little bit hard, and then check in and be like, hey kid, my kids, you know, like, did that mommy slam the door? I noticed, and I was really whatever. Like, can we expand? Is it safe? And then realize, like, I am safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I also don't have to be safe all the time. I'm allowed to like,
I needed to hear.
Right? Like, okay. Because then how else would you know that you're safe if you're not having a contrary experience?
I have like existed inside of a bubble. So that's like, even doing this podcast, like, doesn't feel very safe actually. But that's not like, oh, I shouldn't do it.
Yeah. I think the energy that we're like talking about wanting to lean into next, and we keep saying too, is like, we were so serious. We were so serious on season 1. And we had like things to say and a plan. And now we're like, what would it look like to play and to create? And I know like creating and art is a big part of your journey too, personally.
Yes.
So like, what have you been doing with creating and playing and like literally like welding? I don't know what I see on Instagram. I just love it.
Yeah, see that, and those are like so there was I took like my own sabbatical away from my professional work because I was just kind of like dissolving. I couldn't, it like needed to die, and then maybe it was going to be reborn, or I don't know, right? But I just needed to do something other. And how we started this podcast episode of like that quiet space inside myself has always been like a forager of things and putting things together. And I think, again, wordlessly was really desperate to communicate what the work of therapy had been like for me. And so I started playing with metal and metal art and learned to weld and started gathering different materials. Like, so, I mean, from like the side of the road, junkyards, metal on OfferUp, free metal, and tons of stuff from the beach, and compiling and rearranging and deconstructing and then reconstructing. And what kept emerging for me is that it's all one thing, right? So like this work and my participation with found things and the reorganization of a found thing is exactly what the work of therapy looks like. Here's the offering, here's the material. How do we want to hold that? Where does it belong? You know, what does it need in order to be in this space it fits in best? And so it just kind of became this mirror for me that the artwork is also like the artwork of sitting with a person's material. And so I love being able to turn off my mind and just know like, oh, I kind of want that shell to do this now. And just being in that body is so different than the precision of the mind. So it's been amazing.
So fun. So fun to watch what you make, and then like progression too. Here's this thing. Ooh, in a couple of weeks, here's this thing. I'm like, oh, dang, I love that. Like this new layer to it. Yeah. And I think it does show in your work how you're showing up and sitting on the beach and the new things that brings. I'm just thinking too, like the people who come to sit on the beach, that's a new level of bravery. It's a new level of exposure because we're talking about this safety and like going in, closing the door to the therapist's office, and you can't tell anybody that you meet with me. That's legal. You know, don't tell anybody. If I see you in the store, we're going to just walk on by. Well, you're kind of known in town. People know who you are. And you're posting on Instagram, I'm at the beach. And so when people see that blanket, those chairs, there's a bravery to somebody being willing to be doing this work out loud.
Yes.
And be seen.
Agreed.
Are you seeing a difference in how people show up?
Yeah. Well, I can't. Okay. Like shame is such a killer to like spontaneity and safety in so many ways. And I kind of still feel like if we're going into like a non-obvious building with a white noise machine behind like glassed, covered doors, that we're still like, those all things feel kind of shamey. And so there's something very, again, in the doing, not the saying, in the actual lived experiences. I have nothing I need to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
I'm right here. The sun didn't go away because I shared a big thing, like the world didn't fold in on itself because I finally opened my mouth to speak my truth.
Yeah, the world is literally spinning around you.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm not going to sink everyone by saying this. I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's like so literal and simple, and also like dripping in metaphor. It's
which
just so beautiful. Like being out in the light, being like visible. Do you like what you just described to us? Is this something like you find if you're like, I almost want to say onboarding a new patient, but even that, like when somebody's like curious and they see it, like, do they like intuitively already get this and consent to it, or is there kind of like let me ease you in?
Yes, good, yes. And so those are all important things, right? Like for actual consent is actually really important to me, because if we don't have consent, we don't have agency. We just have obedience, right? Okay. So it's like, so I let people know, like we meet at T Street. I send them a picture, like so that way they know. Okay, they can start to build the visual story, right? Like, oh, okay, and so this is where you'd park, and this is the bridge, and even that walk, and then there's the descent. You descend the stairs, you're walking in the sand. All of that's a warm up to the work. And so I'm going to make sure that we're over here. It is private, but not invisible. Right? So, and if that's not a right fit, then there's so many other great therapists in town who are in those offices, and they're right up the street.
Literally. Oh my goodness. That word descent just got me like on an Inanna thing.
So that is the point. It's the model. It's the whole model.
Yeah.
We descend, then we're in that space of the work is happening, and then we ascend. And
then we cross the threshold back into... So my therapeutic experience with Elyse was in a group setting, and I went to your office, the Radical Wellness office, and we did therapy intake. I was in the pits of just like, I had my ticket. I finally felt like I had the ticket. I'm getting divorced. I've lost my faith. I have all these free entry tickets. Totally. Like, let's sit here. I mean, I
belong here now.
I belong here now. I guess I should go. I guess it's time. And we're sitting there, and you like gave me this analogy, because I just was like, where do we start, girl? I mean, I could go back. We could talk about this season I'm in, or we can go so deep. And you gave me this metaphor of like the bookshelf, where you're telling me kind of all these books that are on the shelf, and we don't need to like grab them all and like bury you in them. We're gonna like pick one off. We're gonna flip through it, and as we like do that, maybe that will eliminate some of these other books. They'll like heal in tandem and all this stuff. And then ultimately I didn't end up doing talk therapy. I was also in a season, which I still feel like I'm in, of like the importance of communal healing and not being in isolation. So we did like a 5-month heroine's journey through the like whole thing, and that's the Inanna thing that we were like just referencing. But it was so meaningful too, because the other part of this with authority and facilitating is about leadership, right? And so this group, there was 7 of us maybe, or like 8 of us, like 7 I think in that group, and we're doing this work. We all had our own little kind of mission for the month, and it was 5 months, and but we were hearing each other. There was like, the word accountability can feel like I'm going to throw up sometimes, but there was this beautiful accountability.
Yeah.
The witnessing is the better word I like to use now. But in that, and you were facilitating, you were leading us through very beautiful experiences. There was a plan, it was there, but like there was this communal thing happening.
Definitely.
And so I want to talk about that too. Just like communal experiences, facilitating versus leading, all of that.
All of that. Oh my gosh, totally. Okay. And so I have my friend Bonnie, and she always talks about like when you kind of rig something in your favor, or like you do the thing that no one sees coming. And I think of that when I think of communal healing, where a lot of us, when we were injured, or whether that be like in a church setting or in a place where, or in a family of origin, wherever the injury took place that would warrant you coming to therapy, is then we kind of think we have to go do that alone. And it's like the flip is like, no, I'm gonna do it out loud with a group of other women. Like, I'm not gonna do that by myself. I'm gonna do the exact thing you don't expect me to do, which is to share my story more openly. And there is something so prolific about that move. It's like a power move. It really is. Mm-hmm. So I love group work. I love that group facilitation feels absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. Because it's live and you don't know what's coming because everyone's bringing a different ingredient. And so it's like we're working in real time with a real concept, with real stories. And obviously that I feel like energized thinking about it. It really lights me up.
Mm-hmm. You can't control it. You could do that heroine's journey again. Okay. And it would be radically different.
Okay, so that's what you just said. You can't control it. And I think that's exactly, and that's what I want to communicate when we're in there. Is it's like, I am not doing this to you. I'm not hosting a magic show and like and it's like, no, you made this. We made this. I am not in control.
What felt beautiful though too was. I felt like, I'm going to put words in your mouth and then I'll ask you a question, but I felt like I was experiencing you also being welcomed into the experience. Everyone in that group was like, wait, Elyse, you share. We'd all share. And it's like, wait, Elyse, what about your card? What about your archetype this month? And I was watching you have an experience of, I'm facilitator, and then going, oh, I'm allowed to participate. I'm allowed to exist here on the same playing field. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, like it's so that I wouldn't want my material to, because typically there's the pedestaling, right? Where, if I share a response, then that's the right one.
Yes.
Interesting. So you have to be careful. Is that what you're saying? Or
withhold. It's like because there really isn't a wrong. Yeah. I don't live in that kind of like brain space anyway. Like I was kind of raised by very alternative human beings, and I'm an alternative human being, so it's like I didn't have to do any work deconstructing if there's a good or a bad. That was like, what? Okay. In the group, I also know the difference between leading it by making room for someone versus leading by putting my things in front of somebody. Okay, so in the church, that was what if I was preaching? Like, I am leading by giving you the whole meal. Mm-hmm. This work is I am leading by making space for your meal, your things. And now, cool, because you trusted yourself enough to do that, I can also model a sense of, oh, cool, that's so cool. Okay, what about that and this? And like my material can also belong. But it's the opposite in church world.
Yes.
We're given the whole thing. You can't, don't think, don't feel, don't object. Swallow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The word you used last time was potluck when we were talking last time. Just like this idea of inviting you over to my house. I've made the whole meal. Here it is. Take it, enjoy it, leave it. These are the options, whatever.
Right.
Or we are all bringing something. We might actually even bring two of the same thing, but it's not going to be the exact same. It's like my recipe. And the contrast from religious settings, I think about it so much when people have been in a church space for a long time. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And there's community. It's not good or bad. It's just there also is this shadow side of having an authoritative spiritual voice in your life that is the only, those people. I only listen to fill in the blank. I only read books by fill in the blank. And I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty narrow situation.
It's extreme. Yeah, it's extreme.
Yeah, but common also.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're creating these spaces. I liked how you said that. Just, I am now creating space for your meal. And the potluck analogy is so great because you're like, I'm going to come with my plate, and I might resonate with something that someone's saying so much and be like eating it all up. And someone else, it might just kind of like float over me and not be for me in that moment. And it's so much more organic and connecting. And my
again,
experience was so good.
Well, because we're doing the thing we want, right? We're not reading a book about it, right? We're not just feeding the brain on it. We're having a lived experience of like, wow, we can do this. And we're taking back sacred spaces for women to be themselves and to not have to be right, but to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we love that.
Oh yeah. We're like, yeah. There's sort of like, there's a question I have, and I feel like we've kind of touched on the answer a bunch, but I want to like really poke at it. I'm just thinking about like the three of us majorly resonate and like on a lot of these topics, and we're like adding our little, we're having a little potluck right now.
For sure.
I'm just thinking about listeners and like the larger collective. Everyone will have a different experience with these concepts, but I think what's kind of settling on me is like being a human is really hard, and sometimes we do need help. And this tension of like, we're certainly not saying throw out therapy or like it never has a place, but I'm kind of interested in hearing you speak to the more conventional ways of thinking about this in a more direct way. And kind of the way that like I'm seeing it in my mind right now is there's kind of like these two extreme camps. There's one camp that, maybe not camp, but maybe we'll say one person, like one kind of person that like hasn't quite hit the brokenness yet. So never ever considers getting a certain kind of help, being witnessed in a certain like deep way. And so never has really thought about therapy or being held in that way. So there's that. Then there's the person that is like, oh, I'm so there. Like, I'm so broken. Here's all my diagnoses, which I have like a whole soapbox on the harm of diagnoses, but hold on, I'm pulling myself back. That's like another topic. And they're like, of course I'm going to therapy because like I'm so beyond broken. I can prove it. Here's everything I was told. Here's everything that's happened to me. I think the reality with both people, the thread between them is being a human is hard, even if life's going well. That like the larger collective is really unsettling right now, the larger context of what we find ourselves in. And so for both people, conventional therapy, the price of admission is brokenness. And this one person's like, I'm so there, ready to give you my authority and like sit back and be obedient. And the other person like might not avail themselves to any sort of like help. So in your new paradigm or the way you think about it, if this is totally like so foreign and new to anyone listening, if the price of admission isn't brokenness, what's the new invitation?
Okay, I guess I'm going to think of it. I think of it more like maybe like the neighborhood that we're in, and there's a lot of different houses here, and it has to be more than the binary setup, right? It has to be more than the binary. Sometimes the price of admission is brokenness, and that's why we have places where people can go and get well and fall apart. And it's why we have things like a hospital or intensives and a place for someone where they need deep support, more support than is available on an hour by hour basis. And so that exists, and people who want to do that work and specialize in it. And that's like, it feels still like good and strong and sacred. And there has to always be room for that because we're always going to have that contingency. There's always going to be some level of catastrophe. And so to minimize that and say like, oh, but you could also take your positivity into therapy. It's like, that's so unkind, right? Okay. So that must always be. And I think the person who maybe floats a little higher than some of those like rock bottom dwellers, that might just not be the work they're here to do this time around. Okay.
Beautiful.
Like,
yeah.
and also there's times where like, I also think we need those people because we need to know that sometimes it doesn't all go to shit. Like, you know, like there's times I like, and like my husband is like one of those people like where things have kind of bend in his favor. It's like the light shines on him, and like he's had a really beautiful life. And at first I was like, I can't even believe that some people live this way. Like how I didn't even know this was an option.
Yeah.
Same.
And then it makes me think like, wow, there's people in this world who are having beautiful, kind of simple lives. And I'm like, that's really cool. Whoa. Okay. So there's like more material, there's more data points. And is there room for that person to expand or to do other things? Sure. But it doesn't all have to be so, we're not dredging the bottom to look for material. You know, he could have a whole life's work and just existing and enjoying a simple thing that doesn't all have to be hard. It could also be just fine. We don't have to pathologize ourselves in order to belong either. So I think what I want to acknowledge is that like I really respect and have deeply needed the work of therapy in order to sit where I'm at now. I'm just sitting over here now. Yeah. So I hope and bless that world forever, the broken places, because that's sometimes just how we get in. It just can't be where we stay. Okay? And I think that's the thing my heart wants to continue to build, is that there's just other houses in this neighborhood. There's just more. Yeah. And so if we thought that therapy was only ever going to be for the broken, then we've missed that like healing is also a creative act, and healing is a rebellious act, and healing is an embodied act, and healing is there's all these other things. And so that's just kind of what there's just what else is out there. Let's go see. Yeah. What's in you to create? What's circle? What moment? What invitation? What podcast? What else is going on in this neighborhood?
It feels very kind and humanizing. And it's bringing me back to us talking about like your move away from like, I don't want to be seen as someone's savior and as a therapist. You saying I sit over here now is a radical move towards, there's so many beautiful practitioners doing so many beautiful, important, sacred things. I can't save you. That's why I'm here to do what I'm uniquely here to do.
Totally.
And there's so many other houses where like you could get that deeper help, and you also could just not do therapy at all. Sometimes I get jealous of those people and like get into my dogmatic like, are they more human than me? I'm just like too intense. They're just living. I'm not living. I'm thinking about living and then talking about it on a podcast. But that's just
right? Whoa.
Like, I feel like that's why we're all sitting in this room. Like, but we need all those people. And sometimes like I'll come up for air and I'll see someone like that really enjoys making the coffee. Like they're a barista. I'm just like, they just love that. They might do that forever. Wow, that feels so good. But it doesn't mean I'm wrong or, you know, so it feels very kind and humanizing, even to yourself, of you have to feel good in what you're providing for people to be the most you can be.
I do. Not everybody has that. I mean, I know that there's plenty of therapists in this field that are happy to dissociate from themselves in order to do this job. Yeah. I can't live outside of that. I would like break down. I can't. I don't know. That's like a whole Enneagram conversation, but like I cannot fake it. I don't have that. I don't have that skill.
Well,
I don't either.
There's downsides to that too. I mean, like Dave wants to come back and talk about PTSD and the way we shut down and the way you compartmentalize. And we talked about that, about firemen, and you know, you're married to a fireman too. So the ability to compartmentalize and shut parts of yourself down can be to survive, but then it's, you know, not for your well-being. And this whole conversation around healing is such a like buzzword and culture.
Right. Agreed.
And the healing culture that's out there right now, I had this like vision last summer of just like excavating these roots under my tree. I gotta find like where does every root end? This source of the family of origin, all my pain. I'm going to go so deep. I'm going to know myself. I'm going to whatever the thing is. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at all the dirt around the roots that's holding up this giant like oak that is me, and I can't even stand anymore. It's like, can some things just stay buried in the dirt? I don't know. If it's ready, if the root is rising up over, you know, the dirt and I see it, can I look at it? Can I dust it off? Do I need to dig to the base of who I am?
Totally.
And I look at healing culture sometimes and I'm just like, can we just enjoy making our coffee sometimes?
Yes, we can.
Can we laugh and play? Can we dance?
Yes.
Can we create? Can we weld metal together? And can it just be fun one day? Does it not have to connect to the work you're doing in the world? And
Please.
you know, I mean, we were talking before this about like releasing our attachment to outcomes. And I think healing right now is very like outcome oriented. And if I could just then what? Like there's no end to your roots and your tree is gonna fall over. So I love the question you asked of what's the invitation now? And I love that your answer was the invitation is whatever you need.
Self-trust.
Do whatever you want.
I even asked you a question and you're like, there's not an answer because I'm not the authority on this. So it's bringing us back to agency and self-trust. And like, I absolutely went from Christianity to making healing a religion. I was so religious with healing. And even now, sometimes I'll catch myself like I'm reading a novel right now that I randomly picked up because I like the cover. That's so not me. I need a review. I need to know if it's deep. I need to know if I'm going to learn something. And I just, every time I read it, I'm like, wow, this is for fun. And it's like foreign because I'm like, I have all these books. And so it's like, I'm on this journey of like, I could sit here being like, oh yeah, healing. Like I still am unpacking, not making it religious because it makes me feel safe to intellectualize up here. Whereas playing even like this podcast, as we were coming up to do season 2, I was feeling heavy and serious. And I had this moment that ended up leading to liberation of, I don't want to do this if it's not play. I can't. It's too much pressure to be like, I need to always be providing something of like such substance that heals, but like I can't. I will ditch it.
It feels heavy, you know.
Right, but that's like that's like a self-pedestaling, right? Like
totally,
it's like, okay, apparently I'm supposed to provide this content. It's like, what the heck? Like,
no, I'm not.
Well, it's a funny thought.
Where did it even come from?
Well, the model.
Yeah,
right.
The model.
So we take what's out, and then we apply it within. And it's like, oh, I'm doing it. Oh, I'm doing that thing. Oh, all right, right. So then the internal work of like, I am me and we are here instead of like, well, it's the de-rolling, right? We de-roll and we take off the things we're supposed to be. When you're talking about books, I'm like, that's the only way I can find a book. So I go through it, I'm like, ooh, and I like smell it and look at it. You know, I want to like go see like a Beach Town Books, you know?
Oh, yes.
But I'm like, how cool that we could be in a bookshop and like we have such different approaches, right? But we might end up with the same book, or we might not. But like, it's just the way. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't think that however you find a book is still just, could you love yourself that that's the way you do it? Could you love that you want to learn? Could you love that you're a person who wants the review? There's some thoroughness there. Like, what a beautiful quality, how caring that's the way you would approach your learning and your time.
Absolutely. I'm grateful you said that because it's kind of telling the story in like a funny way, right? But I think what I was trying to I absolutely do not want to lose the parts of me that want to learn everything, that wants to like share with you, guess what I just learned. That is so me. Yeah. That is why I wanted to do a podcast. Right. I think the fiction book moment was, pulling in the healing, the isolating healing. That was the only way I felt safe, to be alone and like sort my stuff out. So like, it's interesting, like, there's a lot of threads in my life right now where then I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to be healing community. Actually, there's both. What if it's okay that like right now, because of how all like swallowed up I felt growing up and I couldn't individuate. It feels so good to be alone in my room reading a book about shame. It feels good. Yeah. Like that's okay. I don't have to lose that and be like, I'm a romance novel girly now. I'm healed. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right.
But I think the fiction book moment for me, because it was like so random and it was so outside of what I usually read and I'm enjoying it. It was almost this moment of, okay. In my moments of seeking community and going outside of my room and putting down the learning, I actually need to let my people know, hey, I forget how to play sometimes. And then I fold in on myself. And I don't want to lose that part of myself. But this other part of me is here too.
Yes.
I actually need a little bit of support and not forgetting that.
Yes.
And
but
I help you play.
You do. It's expanding to hold all of it, not getting rid of my serious side, but
yes. Yes.
It's there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's the true freed holism, right? Like I have many aspects of myself and they come forward as needed. I'm not stuck in a specific gear or version, right? So if you thought about like a carpool and like all these versions of yourself are in that car and like who's driving today, right? And so sometimes there is a part of us that like we just have been on autopilot for so long, we forgot that we actually do have a fun, whimsical, playful, creative self, or the like, actually I do know what I need to do and I can buck up and do the thing. And then like there's all these versions in that car. And I think if we were really to pull this thing all the way out, it's that we stop saying I have to be a certain way, right, in order to be healed. Or that I won't look the way I did when I was in my old environment. I don't actually think that's true. I think that you might and I might look similar to how we looked when we were in Christianity or whatever, those or evangelical spaces, because I think I was actually a very true version of myself as I was connecting to God as I knew him to be then. I'm just on this side of things now. And I still am a thoughtful, creative, fun, leadery person.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love like beautiful.
As we're like landing our plane and winding down this conversation, we could talk for 17 hours.
I know,
so
I
I'm
agree.
Like, okay,
please.
as we're winding down, that's potent. And we talk about that, not shaming the parts of us that were alive at different times and giving all those places space.
Yes.
And giving the person that you are today, the way you're doing therapy today, in 5 years, you're going to go, oh my goodness, I was so alive and vibrant there. Look at where I am now.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's like, that's like the true, if you think of an actual deconstruction process to reconstruction, I think that's the spot that not everyone will get to, because there's so much effort and like it's so cool to deconstruct, but no one's talking about the rebuild. But if you deconstruct something, then you can have access to all the materials, and then you're just deciding what you want to put where now. Like, what are we keeping from the bones? So like literally not the other day, this has been a process now, but metaphorically the other day, I'm like, I love a time of devotion in the morning. Oh, but would I have allowed myself to do that? No, because it felt religious. And then I was like, okay, but what if that's a part of me? It's ritual. I love starting the day. So I'm like reading this like Jewish commentary by all women rabbis. And I'm like, I'm loving it so much. I'm like, I feel old new.
Old new.
Right?
Expanding. I mean, we say the phrase all the time, expanding to hold the wholeness of our human experience. And I think when we start leaning into dogma again, that feels religious. It's like, okay, maybe there's a religious part of me that wants attention today. I was doing it this morning, listening to my Ram Dass meditations and breathing and just trying to find myself, my humanity before connecting with the two of you.
Yep.
Because it's really easy too to want to like merge and want to mirror and do all these things. And so I was just sitting with like, who am I today? And Holly came in and I said, feeling really existential. What is life? What are we doing here? Like, this is not me landing the plane. I'm like opening a whole nother box. But at the end of the day, it was like, what I get to do today is have a conversation with two people that I love. It's going to be beautiful. That's what I'm choosing to do today. That's the meaning of my morning. My meaning of my life. Amazing. I don't know. But the meaning of today was like just that we get to connect, and it's so beautiful and special. And I feel expansive. I feel like I get to we talked about sitting in our own seats, and it's like I feel like I get to take up all the space in my seat, and you get to take up all of yours, and you get to take up all of yours, and we're not shrinking, and there's not less air in the room because we all have big selves to be.
That's exactly right.
Oh my
there's
goodness.
more. There's more available. And,
Yes.
I know we're landing the plane, but I just felt like
There's no plane.
The plane's just circling, but I feel like a part of me just like broke open in a way I've been craving for like 3 months. And it was like, as you were saying, like maybe the parts of us that were in that religion are us. And I just like had this epiphany, like I've been trying to really get rid of her. And it's making me laugh because it's like, I was preachy, I was opinionated. I thought, let me tell you why you should listen to Christian music. Let me tell you. And like, I was kind of like loud and chatty and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm literally sitting on a podcast, like trying to be now really like not that way, but like still a little. What if she's loud?
What if she's loud? What if she's got an opinion?
What if she wants to say something? Yeah. And what if her opinion also can change 6 months from saying it on the podcast today?
Yes.
Wow, I just felt that expansion that I've been preaching about, like actually somatically in my body.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
The somatics for us of sitting together too, like we just went to a John Foreman concert and like the emotional release of singing the songs and
embarrassing,
loving the songs and the music. And it's like, I don't believe these words, but the part of me that did is here right now.
Yeah.
And like, she needs to sing these songs and she needs to hug her friend who's crying and like all of it. So there is all this somatic stuff happening where we're settling, but
I don't know who John Foreman is because
Switchfoot.
Oh yeah, Switchfoot. Do you know that?
No, see, this is like
I used to think he saved my life. Now I know I did, but there's like he's a kind of big part of
Walk
me.
to Remember. You know the movie Walk to Remember?
Yeah. Yes.
The like main song from that with like Dare You to Move. I won't sing it for you. That's John Foreman.
Yeah. Anyway, your point.
That doesn't matter.
Okay, but this is I think the point, right? In that is, I don't know that it was those words that you had to believe in because there was an experience that your spirit recognized.
Oh yeah.
And I think that that's still here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So
it was the frequency of his voice. It was like his spirit.
No, and yours.
And mine.
Right?
Yes.
That connected you to
Spirit.
Yeah. And I think we get really focused on language and it has nothing to do with that. He could have been singing in Chinese.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
You're so
It
right.
doesn't matter. What happened is transcendence.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There it was. Transcendence. That was a word. That was a very plain landy word. Transcendence. Like we hit it, you know? My plane is landing. I'm using my hands. Okay, Elyse, I want to give people an opportunity to connect with you. You have a beautiful podcast. You're in the middle.
Yeah, I am.
Middle? Maybe
Ish.
like right in the middle-ish of a 40 lessons. And what's the name of your podcast? Where can we find you on Instagram? I want people to have more of you because I constantly love taking in your sweet voice. And so tell us where we can find you.
My name is Elyse Snipes. You can find me anywhere if you just Google me. That'll show up on my website. My podcast is on Substack right now. I'm in upon turning 40, I wrote 40 things that are like the tried and true of my life to this point. And I'm doing a podcast episode on all of those 40 things, the backstory on like how I arrived at 40. So you can find me again. Instagram is Elyse Snipes. Website is Elyse Snipes. It's all there.
And if people want to book like a dream session with you, book a session on the beach, they can do that on your website. Yeah,
they can, and this is like the transition point is like, as my work evolves, my offering evolves, and I'm still trying to decide where I want to sit. And I really want to be with people who, I want to be a change agent. Like I want to be with people who are looking to pivot. And if people are curious about things that don't have to feel therapy-ish, I got a whole book of recommendations for people who want to go see a therapist, but people who maybe want to have conversations on stepping into agency. I want to do that.
Yeah, I love it.
So love it.
Thank you, friend, so much.
You guys, this is the best. It's like the hangout.
This is so fun. Yes. Oh, so grateful to have you here, and thank you, humans, for listening. I feel like as we're with our cute little sign off here, I just feel like I'm saying it a little bit more embodied than I ever have. This conversation felt really nourishing. So reminder to myself and to you, Elyse, and to you, Kristina, and all the humans listening that you are an absolute badass and the most fragile thing. Treat yourself as both. Thank you.